Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. I'm Andrea Gomez.
And she is joined by Orlando Sanchez.
You might
I'm taking a minimalist role in this program now.
Wow, I can tell. Before
You're in charge.
Before it was you host and co-host, so now it's the other way around.
Well, no, I wouldn't go that far.
Of course not. Well, today it's May 24th, and sadly is the 1 year anniversary of the Uvalde school shooting that led 22 kids.
19 kids and adults.
Adults,
Yeah.
yes. 22
Teachers.
people died a year ago. I remember a year ago, it was Elections Day here in Texas, and I was getting the breaking news on my phone, and it's something that you're getting it, but you don't think that that's real. And as the day goes by, the story start developing, and it was a horrible, horrible tragedy. I think the biggest mass shooting in school. And now, today is a year of anniversary of that tragedy. Many things happen after that in politics.
Yep, and as all things in this society, it's all become political.
Mm-hmm.
The left blames the right blames the left. It's and that's not a solution. And many people say, well, we're keep them in our prayers. That's to the left's become a joke now. Yeah, that's all y'all do is pray. Well, yeah, no wonder. I read an article today that Christianity around the world is on the decline. So for Christians, it's important to pray. We think it's powerful. We shouldn't be ridiculed about it when someone else is suffering, that we're praying for them. But, it's become the left and the right they think they're going to win the argument, and there's no solution to the issue. The left thinks that, removing our Second Amendment right to own, bear arms, protect ourselves is the solution. Uh, the far right believes that, and I think to some extent that mental health is not properly addressed in this country. And interestingly, Andrea, I saw the mayor of New York the other day. Finally, and it was, he's a Democrat, but he's saying some really good stuff. I mean, I got to admit, he says perhaps it's a time that we now have the ability to institutionalize people that are a threat to themselves in society. I mean, we used to do that, but we made a choice to deinstitutionalize people who had severe, uncurable mental challenges, and we put them out on the streets. First of all, it's horrific what we do to them.
Yeah.
They're living on the streets. They're begging for food. They have no medical attention. They have no shelter. They have nowhere to shower. They have nowhere to relieve themselves. That's no way to treat the least among us in our society. So, yeah, it's a complicated issue, but it is a solemn day today. And I, as a Christian, do pray for my friends in Uvalde. I was in Uvalde last weekend. As you know, I go through Uvalde
Yeah.
every weekend to go to South Texas.
Yeah. So today, many things in politics, as I said, gun control, mental health. So people are trying to figure it out what or who to blame about not only that mass shooting, but after that, it's like nonstop mass shooting in different shopping centers,
Happens anywhere.
malls,
Walmart, movie
Walmart,
theaters,
movie theaters, like
gay bars.
just name it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that, and also we're gonna talk about that something that it's also a hot topic in education. Is related to everything in schools, and is a school of choice. Something that is being debated in the legislature in Texas. Other states already have that in place, and here in Texas is an issue that is being debated there. So we're going to talk about these two issues today. That's the topic of today. And we're going to invite our first guest is James Barnes. He's the Liberty for the Kids Regional Director. James Barnes currently serves as a Liberty of the Kids Regional Director. In his role, the works throughout Texas to advance the conversation about parental choice in education with the grassroots community leadership and our Texas legislature. So, Mr. Barnes, welcome to TLC. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you hear him?
I hear him fine.
Okay.
Must be
Oh,
your
perfect. Yes.
IFB. So I'll lead off. James,
Absolutely.
thank you for being with us. Give us what have you been doing in the legislature? What's the dust up about? Why is everybody wrapped around the axle about school choice? It seems to me, and if you watch this program, I like to make editorial comments.
Yeah.
So let me begin with one. Medicine. I said to some CEOs and board members and physicians the other day, I said, I can go to McDonald's and I know the price of everything from French fries to a large Coke to a medium Coke. And if I don't like McDonald's, I can go to Burger King and still see prices. Or I can do the same thing at a gas station. At every corner, I see the price. And why did medicine become so mysterious? I don't know what a chest x-ray costs nowadays. I don't know what a
Right.
complete blood count costs. I mean, it's a simple thing. We as consumers, why? Because the government and the insurance companies have taken over medicine in this country. And
Right.
so, again, why are people afraid of choice and transparency in education? Why we as consumers, payers of the taxes to support the franchises, don't get a choice?
Yeah. This is not something that just started just recently. People have been working towards this for a very long time, and so a lot of the policies in the past that have really kind of been what we've been doing. Parents got to see it during COVID, and and really have stepped up the grassroots. And my role as a grassroots director is getting out and talking to the parents. And I myself am parents. I have 5 kids that went through public school. I have 2 of them still in public school. So, I have my own struggles. So, and I see a system that has been developed, and we're just trying to get it to work better for the parents, and it takes a lot to change things. So we're working through what's called change management, which is very difficult, and there's a lot of different moving parts. So we have to consider all those as we're moving forward. But at the end of the day, parents want this. This is good for our state, and this is the right thing to do. So regardless of the old policies and the old reasons why we haven't done things this direction, we know this works, and that's what we're working towards.
James, you say parents want this, but if you watch the news media, there are parents that apparently don't want this. So I don't think there's unanimity in that. I think there's also a big divide, a fissure, so to speak, between urban school districts and rural school districts. I can tell you this. First of all, I pay school taxes in 4 counties in the United States. And for disclosure, I am a graduate of public schools. I did attend parochial schools, but I eventually graduated from a public school in the Houston Independent School District. In Houston, in 2018, I led the charge to demand that Governor Abbott once and for all take over the failing school district, because it was failing at every aspect. They were stealing money. Members of the board of trustees were going to the to the prison. They were giving multi-million-dollar landscape contracts that were fake. The quality of education was declining. We had historic black school, Phyllis Wheatley School that graduated Barbara Jordan, of all things, was failing. Right. And half of the Hispanic kids that started, which, by the way, I think 70% of the HISD population is Hispanic, weren't graduating.
Yeah.
And they're hiding those figures. So at every turn, HISD was a failure. Then I pay property taxes in Kinney County, Texas, the poorest county in Texas, to the Brackett Independent School District. But people love our school. I mean, everybody does. The kids love it. The parents love it. They're producing a quality program. Hispanic kids are graduating. So there's tension there, correct?
Yeah. And I love my public schools. My wife is a public school teacher. My daughter is also a public school teacher. They both teach middle school here in a Title I school in San Antonio. So it's not necessarily we're against the public schools. What we're looking for is options for the children. And we actually just had a poll come out recently. I think it was yesterday, that was ran by the Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation. And once again, it shows an overwhelming majority of parents, when given the options for choice, they do like the idea. Doesn't mean they're going to execute on the idea. They're going to move the kids out of the schools. Like I said, I have public school students as well in my own home, and I don't think that I'm going to be moving them out. What I would like to see is, and like a lot of the parents we're talking to, I want to see an effective school system that we don't have to shut down, that we as parents and as a community can trust. And I think a lot of that trust factor has been broken. And so what you're seeing in a lot of the contentious conversations is trying to rebuild some avenue of trust where we know that our voices as parents will be heard, not just from ourselves, but also going into the legislature. My job specifically was to go around the state and talk to parents and find the folks that are interested in the conversation, and then turning that into the communities and the talking to the legislatures. And it was a fascinating experience all the way through. We're kind of coming to the end of it, but I've been working towards this for about 1.5 years now with Liberty for the Kids. So I've got a lot of fun stories that I've experienced.
So let me go back. You mentioned the Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation. I think you meant the Texas Public Policy Foundation out of Austin.
Well, there's just came out the other day. It was, and I have it here with me. It's a Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation, and I could actually get it to you. It came out. It was right in the middle of this conversation.
Fine. If you don't mind emailing it to us, I'd love to read it. Now,
absolutely.
Let me just say, Uh, I think that politics has entered and infiltrated not only from superintendents association into the legislature, but down to the school district, to the board of trustees, to the principals, and into the classroom. Now, I can tell you in 1962, when I started Shern Elementary School in Houston, I did not speak English. I was probably the only Hispanic little kid in probably a class of about 30 kids, but it was a homogeneous class. It was all white kids.
Mhm.
And it seems as the problems are erupting in urban areas of America because, as I said, if you go to the Brackett Independent School District, there is diversity in the classroom. And again, everything seems fine. Kids are graduating, parents are involved. But you come to Houston, it's an unmitigated disaster.
Mhm.
One, we need to get politics out of the classroom, correct? But
Amen.
it's the goal should be a stellar education to give every child a leg up in competing in the 21st century economy. Should that not be the goal?
That should be the goal. It's we want to see the future of our families thrive, and we do that through education. We prepare them for everything in their future. It comes out of education from the schools, how we're raising them as parents, and so yes, it should be our absolute goal.
Mr. Barnes, what is the conversation about, after Uvalde mass shooting? Because we see in the media and we hear everywhere gun control, but it's beyond the gun control. It's beyond that. What is the conversation about that topic in a specific? Mental health, gun
Hmm.
control. What is the conversation right now, and what is the plan to try to pursue or put in
Hmm.
place in the schools?
That's actually interesting. Being the fact that I was able to travel the state and have this conversation in many different areas, it's not the same conversation everywhere you go. I live here in San Antonio, and we have a different set of needs per se. That doesn't mean that some of them don't overlap all over the place, but it's very in Dallas Fort Worth area. They were very concerned. There's a lot of issues they're concerned about. They're concerned about the book issues, the ratings issues, the safety issues in their schools. My wife, like I said, teaches at a Title I school, and there's a lot of there's a completely different subset of issues that those parents are dealing with. So I think every area has its kind of reasons why they want to get out of school, if there's an opportunity.
So, my kids just graduate from a high school. I have twins, and they just graduated from a private school, Strike and San
Okay.
Agnes, here in Houston.
Hmm.
And I pay taxes, very high taxes, in the school
Hmm.
district, in a Spring Branch school district, and never used it before. So I am in favor of this school of choice
Hmm.
that is being discussed in that. And I think the media put out there whatever they want to do because they always control the narrative. And
Hmm.
I think it's a lack of education when parents say, I don't want that, is because that's what they've been hearing in the media.
Correct.
Is because they don't know better. They don't have the proper education. They don't understand how that works, especially our Hispanic community. Because when we come to this country, we don't know the system. We don't understand the law. Many of them, or majority of them, probably when if you're an immigrant, you don't understand the language. So what is your organization that you represent is doing to try to educate our parents?
We've started off. I started off back in March of last year, and just really, honestly, getting out into the communities, to the cities, to the rural areas, meeting with different interested folks, and just talking to them, and really educating them on what school choice looks like and trying to help them understand some of the very various arguments. Because at the end of the day, we were asking these parents, these individuals, to come with us to the Capitol to talk to the representatives and to help educate them. So really, what we did was listen to a lot of the issues and then help facilitate that conversation back to the legislative offices. And so when the so we had a whole year of having those conversations before we actually, and we're developing the conversation. And then when the legislature opened up, we turned our attention to the legislature and going in and having these conversations. It was a fascinating experience, still a fascinating experience. We're not quite done yet, but having that conversation and then helping them grow in their confidence during the fight.
Where
We
where
deal
are
with
we? Where are we now? Where is the legislation? In other words, school choice is one. Also, these school savings accounts for parents that they can direct their dollars. Where are we? Give us the lay of the land this
Yeah,
morning.
we're kind of like up against the wall right now. It's not quite complete. There's some stuff going on in the Senate just the other day.
On what
Passed
issue? On what issue?
school choice issue.
School
On the,
choice. Okay. Do you have a
school
House
choice.
bill or a Senate bill number on that
Yeah,
one?
I have Senate Bill 8 was the Senate bill that was originally out of the Senate. Right now, House Bill 100, the Senate was actually looking at that. They actually voted 9-3 to consider it, and that was I think a Ken King bill, and they did an amendment to that. So there's still a lot. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen at the end. The governor honestly I've been very impressed with his leadership on this issue. He's pressed out farther than anything I could ever hoped for in this issue. And at the end of the day, if we don't necessarily get the bill we wanted, when we get something on the table, we still have something as parents and as a community to fight towards and to improve as future legislative sessions open up. So, not necessarily happy without getting a full universal, but we are willing to fight to get what we can and continue to fight forward on
Well,
that.
when you say not full universal, are you talking about the original language in the proposed bill? In other words, at this point, you'll say you'll take any and all amendments and deal with whatever the governor signs if he does sign it and if it clears the Senate? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is right now. I will say was never my full attitude at the beginning of this fight. I mean, I wanted, and the governor wanted, and we all wanted to fight towards the universal. But we're at the end of this right now. Legislative session's coming to an end. If they move on this, it might not be fully what we want. If it goes to a special session, we could continue the fight in towards universal. But at the end of the day, we fought hard. I fought with a lot of folks. The governor's coalition had wonderful members on it, fighting every day to bring this to everybody, the parents' attention, to the community's attention. So there's a lot of really hard work on this. And so if we don't get what we want, doesn't mean we didn't do the work. It means we have more work to do. And so we're get what we got, and then we'll keep on fighting forward until we get what we're really looking for.
And where are we on the savings account?
It's as of right now, the last they're talking about 8,000 per student. It's I'm trying to see where all the moving parts are falling in right now, so I don't want to speak into it too much because it's changed a lot over the last few days, and I haven't had a chance to kind of get all the moving parts put together. But it's looking very similar to the SB 8 in that facility kind of direction.
Mr. Barnes, what is the result of other states that have been implementing these? That I'm thinking that if Texas wants to do this, it's because it's working somewhere else. So give us a spectrum about that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the fascinating thing. Is this thing school choice has been tried. It's been tried for many years. There's over 30 states have already implemented it. Each one of these states have been already doing the experiment, and there's been plenty of studies to show that it is overwhelmingly positive effect for the states to implement it, and for the students and for the parents. And so, um, my confidence is if we pass this, we will see Texas will thrive. We will see our school systems, our school districts will actually thrive. We've seen that in other states, as well as the students that are going off and doing taking their choice in school. They thrive as well. So we've seen a lot of positive effect. There is some research shows a couple negative effects, but that's statistically normal.
So thank you so much. Call to action. What we can tell parents, the community, to to make this happen, or to educate themselves better, or what they need to do.
Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, parents, we are the authority over our children, and we're trying to reestablish that. It's never changed. We still have that, even though the school systems and the debate of the authority of the parent is happening. So, number one, just realize that we do have that authority to stand up and have this conversation. It's a difficult conversation. So what I ask is to find out in your local area what some of the folks are engaged in this, and obviously you can reach out to me or any of the other organizations working towards this. But at the end of the day, we have the legislative session will be closing very soon. Maybe going into special session. We're not really sure exactly where that's going to land, but we're watching it. So just know that we can change, make affect change, and then reach out to the folks that are working on this, and just get involved, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us pushing forward, having this conversation. As difficult as it might feel, or because of the conversation, but we still need to lean into it. So everybody just needs to show up and be part of it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barnes, for all your information, for your time, and we're gonna reach out to you in a couple of weeks to see what is the update on this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and giving me a few minutes just to talk about what's going on. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our second guest is Mr. Michael Kane. He is the instructor and chair in criminology, law, and society of the University of St. Thomas. And I want to thank the University of St. Thomas. They always help us to bring such a amazing guests that they're experts in different areas. And today we have Mr. Michael Kane. Professor, welcome to TLC. Thank you for your time. I know it was a little bit of a short notice for you, trying to figure it out the time, but thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, Professor, we were talking about Uvalde, a year anniversary of this tragedy, and also what it's in the legislature about the school choice and the saving in education. A lot of politics after Uvalde tragedy that's being discussing. So we want you to give us an insight about that.
Well, the Uvalde shooting, or mass shooting, or whatever the term is commonly used, certainly brought to light the vulnerability of many of our not only of our students, but as a public. I think it was pointed out earlier, the shootings are not only in schools, but in various other places, the Walmart in El Paso, other areas where you can't even be safe. And that becomes a major concern for everyone. The politics, of course, as it comes into, where we have individuals saying, well, we should modify our Second Amendment rights, and then other individuals saying, well, there has to be more than that. Can I stop just for a moment, please? Because I know our governor has asked us to have a moment of silence at 11:30 a.m. for the victims. So can we do that, please?
Of
We
course.
can, of course.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for doing that.
And thank you for
No, thank you
reminding
for
us.
reminding us.
Yeah. Well, it just so happened a little after 5 this morning, I happened to get up and I watched a little bit of the news on KHOU. And when I first turned on the television, it really impacted me because they had pictures of all the victims at Uvalde. All that was moving to me. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it's like, wow, this is, and this is one of the things I think as a society we need to do. We we talk about the mass shootings when it occurs. We have an anniversary of it, but then we kind of go into our own routines and put it to the back of our mind because we don't really want to think about it. I would like to see news medias and social media and uh, do this more than just on the anniversary. Show some pictures of some victims and say, "Hey, remember this person was a victim of this tragedy," and they can be just little snippets between commercials on television or after a television program or on, I guess I said, on social media. I think to remind people that this shouldn't be in the back of our minds, but should be in our forefront, uh, just as with school choice should be, and I certainly support that. That it, uh, it people get to the point to where we're feeling that we don't know what to do, and making people more aware of it on a consistent basis, I think goes a long way, and especially when it becomes part of the victimology. What is, having pictures of the victims is moving. Also, how about having some information about the families? How are they doing? What do they feel today? What did they feel at Christmas time? That had to be devastating. And again, have the public be more aware of the tragedy and how it impacts so many people, and that when we start to see an individual that may have a mental condition or may be out there on social media uh, uh, stating that they are want to do violence to individuals, that we're able to address that individual, that we have the laws in place to take care of that individual so that they don't end up becoming a mass
That's an
murderer.
interesting point. Do we have those laws currently? In other words, if I know that my neighbor is threatening folks, been on social media making some veiled threats, do I have the ability to contact some authority in Harris County and they will go to the family courts and have a sanity hearing and have that person uh, institutionalized? Is that currently the law?
That can be part of it, but for the most part, it never gets to that point. Folks naturally will want to say, "Yeah, boy, this guy is kind of off," but I don't really want to, make accusations and not really, and then have them be false.
But we used
Um,
to. We used to have state institutions full of people that were declared psychiatrically dangerous to themselves and to society, and that we as a society provided shelter, food, medication, psychiatric services. We don't do that anymore. There's no capacity in Harris County, Professor. Uh, so, what's happening to these people that are in desperate need of some psychiatric counseling and help?
oh, you're absolutely correct. I recall a long time ago when I was deputy with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, and then also with the Rice University Police Department, and especially taking Rice University Police Department. There were then and are now many homeless people in that area. Um, and when those individuals would come on campus and steal things from students or try to con them, we would have to make some choice. Does this person goes to jail, or does this person uh, uh, go to uh, what was then Jefferson Davis Hospital, or up to LBJ, was now LBJ. And as a police officer, you weren't trained that well on handling mentally ill individuals. You mainly, just try to talk to them, keep them calm, and most often that worked very, very well. But you're absolutely correct. We don't have institutions that can hold these folks, because we would bring them up there, and then a few days later we would see them back in the area, and that's a big concern.
So it sounds to me like you've spent quite a bit of time in Houston. Let me take you back to about the late 1970s, mid 1970s, when I was growing up. Guys wanted pickup trucks. And I remember running around in my own neighborhood, which was Southwest Houston. And it's like kids nowadays want Jeeps and Broncos. Back in those days, we all wanted pickup trucks. I personally had a gun rack, and I carried a 30-30 Winchester on my gun rack and a 12 gauge or 410 shotgun.
Hmm.
And sometimes went to school with those displayed. Of course, I locked my
Yeah.
truck.
Yes.
Guns didn't kill then. We didn't have that problem in the 70s. A lot of kids went shooting with their parents, clay shooting or hunting, and may have brought their guns, or dads would pick them up. They had guns in the car. Now we have gun-free zones. It's a felony to drive within a 2-mile radius of a public school with a gun. You know, None of that's
And yeah,
worked.
that's that's it's not stopping any of the
It's not the guns. So
yeah.
what has happened? How did we come off the rails between the late 1970s and 80s, when young people had guns in and around campus, to today? I mean, the guns are automatically discharging. What's gone on? I say it's a sick society, and we are not willing to address the mental health issues of the hundreds of thousands of mentally challenged people that live on the streets. They've become, I hate to use this word, but they look at them as dregs of society. We don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And these poor souls need help. I mean, it just shows a lack of compassion by society and government that we aren't providing basic services for these folks that eventually do take out their aggressions, their anger, their frustrations, their visions, whatever, their hallucinations on innocent people in public places.
Right. I think you're correct there. I think, though, many of our mass shooters were not homeless. They actually lived in a okay environment, although internally, domestically, there may have been some serious problems. But as you mentioned earlier, we don't have the mechanism to be able to say, okay, I notice that there's a problem here. This individual needs to be committed. And certainly, I've seen parents be very reluctant. They say, well, maybe we can just take care of this individual ourselves and hope for the best. And then they don't have the capacity to do that. So then that person becomes
No,
another mass
I
murderer.
completely agree. And as somebody that has been in law enforcement, it becomes sort of like a child protective services. One of the great ways to exercise retribution against somebody you don't like is to make an allegation that they have violated a child, when in fact it's not true. And so now
That's
you have the
correct.
bureaucracy gets involved. It happens a lot in divorce cases. Mom is mad at dad, so mom accuses dad of sexually abusing the child, when in fact these are tough situations, but we've got to be willing to put everything on the table. uh, is changing the age limit of owning an AR-15, which is a semi-automatic rifle. I mean, there are, you know the left says guns kill. Oh my god, they have semi-automatic rifles are abundant. They're legal. So raising the age from 18 to 21, okay, that may make people feel good, but the mentally deranged, the mentally disturbed, those that are hell bent on creating carnage,
Yeah, I
they're
think
not going to say, "Oh, I'm 18, I better not go buy one."
it's
That's
not.
not going to
Yeah.
fix anything. And
And I
so
think
we got to get
I think
serious and start addressing the mental health issues and start institutionalizing people that are a threat to society.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, because again, we look at the individuals that have committed these heinous crimes. Uh, though they were under 21, they obtained the guns legally, either through purchase themselves, or it was their parents' gun, or someone had loaned them the gun. And so changing the age is not really going to be a factor, because aside from making individuals feel good, again, laws keep good people
Yeah,
doing good, and
yeah,
those that want to break the law will
yeah.
do it anyway.
It's like locks on your house. They keep the honest man out.
Yes, yes. And one of the other things is that for a long time I worked at Coastal Bend College teaching law enforcement in Beeville, and there, the community was very similar to that of the community in Uvalde. That very hardworking Hispanic individuals, middle class individuals that wanted to get ahead, and it was just so sad that shooting occurred in such a pleasant community. I've been to Uvalde many times, not since the shooting, but many times. Uh, One of the things when I was at Coastal Bend College, I was able to go and recruit at high schools and talk to students about coming to Coastal Bend, because we had dormitories, and we also had a campus in Pleasanton, and so respectful, so hardworking, and it's just devastating to me that what occurred. Also, I'd like to add that since I'm talking about going out to different high schools, with the University of St. Thomas, with our criminology program, I also go out and talk to various high school groups. Many high schools have a criminal justice or law enforcement program within their school for students to take, and I'm able to go into those classrooms and talk to the students. What I've noticed is that the newer schools have more safety built in. There's usually some type of vestibule that you have to go through two or three sets of doors to be able to get in. But there are also schools, and there's one school in particular, and I was so appalled by this. I later on I called the principal of this high school here in the uh, greater Houston area, that I walked in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the doors were wide open. I walked in with all the students. I'm actually carrying a wagon behind me full of recruiting material, and no one challenged me. I walked right in, and I'm looking, and you go right into the
Mm-hmm.
cafeteria area, and I look and I go, if someone really had a bad feeling,
Mm-hmm.
they could do a lot of damage right here, and then the door is right there to be able to get out very quickly. And of course, I called the principal that next day, and he was concerned that no one was there to see who I was.
Yeah,
I
I,
was able
I
to
want to
walk all
say,
the way to
let
the
me just say
principal's
one thing, an
office.
editorial comment, because I watched the mayor of Uvalde. By the way, I go to Uvalde every weekend. I'm very familiar with Valverde County and Uvalde County,
Yeah.
and I'm in Bracketville, which is Kinney County, Texas. All those are neighboring counties. So I'm watching the mayor having a meeting last night, and they're calling for. It's been a year, and we're trying to investigate and find out what happened. And it's sort of now become we want to hold people accountable. And I think what they're referring to is they want to hold law enforcement accountable of why it took 77 minutes to penetrate the school, to locate the aggressor, and to neutralize. Let me explain something. In my opinion, and Professor, you can tell me if I'm wrong. There is first of all, I'm not in law enforcement, but I'm assuming that getting a 911 call and coming to a scene where there's an active shooter is a very complex and complicated scene to manage. Number one, you have to have the proper equipment, the proper communication, the proper protocols, and more importantly, the proper training. I know police departments like the SWAT department of the city of Houston, because we in the city of Houston have resources, our SWAT officers train. They are experts on how to move quickly and neutralize the situation. In these small counties, they don't have the training. They don't have the resources. In our county, in Kinney County, we have perhaps three deputies, three deputies patrolling the entire county, which is a border county. So I know Uvalde County is probably stretched on resources. Their police department is not massive. They may have 6, 7, 8, 12 police officers for the city of Uvalde, and they may have a few more dozen Uvalde County sheriffs out in the county. These are massive counties, and they're patrolling the border. So they get a call that there's an active shooter. It's pandemonium. They don't have the training. They don't have the resources. And when the call went out, as we all clearly saw, everybody, it was all hands on deck. So now you had DPS troopers coming from surrounding counties to rob elementary. And then you had Border Patrol. CBP heard about it because they're all listening to each other's radio frequencies. They show up on scene. And then you have surrounding counties sending and it's pandemonium. That no one's in charge of the scene. No one's been trained for this kind of situation. You know, Customs and Border Patrol aren't trained for mass shooting engagements, but they're wanting to help. They're armed, but no one's taking the lead. The school district probably had 3 police officers, on scene. The Uvalde Police Department might have had half a dozen police officers. DPS is hearing all this. They're rushing to the scene, but they're highway patrol. DPS is Department of Public Safety, Highway Patrol. They're not trained to,
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we need a report about what happened, but we certainly can't blame law enforcement that because of lack of resources and training and lack of equipment and
And
lack of communication. It's not their fault.
And I think it's not to blame nobody in this situation or in any other mass shooting. It's like what we're gonna do from now on to address this
Right.
issue. Why they're not putting in a plan that everybody
Right.
in law enforcement, no matter what level, they need to have the proper training for those kind of things. Because why? Because we're being seeing every day that is a mass shooting somewhere. Every day we're seeing these and more and more and more. So everybody needs to be trained on that. So it's not a matter of blame because that's not going to solve nothing. So let's be proactive now and try to.
Well, it's like 9/11. They penetrated the cockpits, they killed the pilots, and they took command of the aircraft. What happened? You can't get into a cockpit now. It's locked.
Yeah.
It's fortified. You'd have to, you know.
Yeah, it changed our lives.
And so we had a solution to that. So we don't get penetration into the cockpit of an airliner. And Professor, is that a... I'm not trying to say that the police chief didn't make the right calls at the Uvalde Independent School District Police Department, but am I correct in the hardships, the challenges that these rural police departments have in these mass shooting situations?
Yes, they certainly do have hardships in terms of resources. Now, each Texas peace officer is required annually to have some training in mass shootings and especially school shootings, but
it's not at the level that
correct.
SWAT officers in Houston are trained.
You're absolutely correct there. It is not at that level. So, but it does have some type of context. But as I was going to say, that it should be expanded. Officers should have the knowledge and the skills to be able to go further. And with the rural areas, whether it be Uvalde or Beeville, where I worked for so long, the resources just are not there. And even if you had some additional state grants for training, are you going to have it on site? Are they going to have to go to Austin? So therefore, the few officers that you do have are now not available to protect the community because they're off in training in Austin. So there's a lot of moving parts there that make it difficult to resources have to be increased to be able to give the officers not only the training but the equipment to feel that they can penetrate the school because what was also found out is that the doors to the classroom were locked and they were bolted
Yeah.
pretty good
I
with
can
the
tell
idea of
you
people
after
coming
that
out.
in Bracketville, in the Brackett Independent School District, uh, last after the Uvalde shooting, they put in massive rocks, boulders in front of the school. I mean, that's sort of security in rural areas. And Professor, we're out of time, but we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day uh, to first of all remind us of the tragedy in Uvalde and the tragedies that have occurred in this country, and perhaps how we can all work together to uh, remedy these situations. We're not going to fix them all, but certainly there has to be some solutions.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you so much, Professor, for your time and being available at the last minute.
okay, not a problem at all. And I want to give you guys credit for making these important issues aware to the public.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching us today. Definitely, it's a sad, sad day. It's a day to, as a professor said, to not forget that we need to keep constantly remind ourselves and the society that we're living, the world that we're living, and we need to be part of the solution and not the problem. And that's very, very important, especially these days that 22 people passed away a year ago. But after that, and we've been seeing these happening every week is something. And I don't want this to become like it's a normal thing. Oh, it's another one. It's another one.
Yeah.
And that's what being, I
Yeah,
mean,
we become
sadly, we're
we become
insensitive.
desensitized
Yeah,
to the situation. I
absolutely.
want to, Andrew Grimley is here with us. He is a graduate. You can't see him, but he has spent the entire hour with us. He is a graduate of St. Thomas Episcopal here in Houston, and he is a senior, will be a senior at Liberty University. And after graduation, he plans to go back up to Washington, D.C. to work on the Hill and do communications for hopefully elected officials. And then his goal is to become a TV anchor. Maybe you can talk some sense into him. And
I think I can
but
help.
Andrea's already put her hooks in him and trying to recruit him. But we want to thank this young man for showing an interest in public policy, in journalism, in the media. He could be out partying on the beach, but he decided to come learn firsthand from a real TV anchor. And Andrew, good luck to you. We'd put you on camera, but we just want to wish you the very best. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. And we're going to have an exciting program that Andrea will put together for next week. And so I hope that you'll join us again next week. Remember, TexasLatinoConservatives.com is our website. We're here because of the generosity of great Texans that want to help keep reasonable conservative government in Texas. And so help us out. We've had tremendous success stories. We don't have time to go over them all, but just know that your dollars are wisely spent, put to good use, and we are accomplishing our mission. Thank you for your generosity, but keep on trucking.
Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Muchas gracias por habernos acompañado. Chao, chao.